was funny. It was funny after the 50. I was on Facebook and I'm scrolling and I'm like, there's a before and an after picture of me, and it was promoting some like
diet or
diet pill after 50.
8-week transformation.
Transformation.
So
I was like, what the hell? I'm like, I didn't. I'm like, that's me, but I don't know anything about this.
Hey man, how are you? We haven't even had a chance to really intro.
I'm real good, man. I obviously 2020's been interesting and real for all of us, and those that adapt and pivot will thrive.
That's right.
And it's just been crazy though. I've got 5 kids, so 4 teenage girls at home and a little boy. And another Halloween come and gone. So
wow.
And what's crazy too is my oldest girl just turned 18, and so that's kind of a moment you go through, and you're like, okay, we're gonna rip through these next ones real quick, and then the next chapter of your life starts, right?
Yeah. Are you talking college? Is she going to school somewhere, or is she still?
Yeah. So she's a senior this year. She's actually going to graduate with her 2-year college degree. And then she's picked a local college here to go to.
Oh, man.
Nice.
There you go. Man, that's awesome.
Hey, who are we talking to?
James Lawrence.
Come on now.
We haven't
even introduced him.
J Law. Yeah, for those of you, I'm going to do a quick intro, and then Ben's going to elaborate because Ben's been following you for a long time, and we all have. But man, really, really excited to have James Lawrence on. So James is known as the Iron Cowboy. For those of you that don't know, you better get to know who this man is, because this is the toughest individual that we will have on this show, guaranteed, hands down.
He makes us all look pretty soft.
That's right. So and again, we're going to get into your journey, James, but you know, he has a documentary out called The Iron Cowboy that documents him doing 50 Ironmans in 50 days in 50 states. Soak that in.
What if you don't know what an Ironman is? What is an Ironman?
It's something.
Wait a minute.
It's one event that 99.99% of the population can't complete.
Exactly.
Why are you asking Tyler what an Ironman is? James, give us in depth for those that don't know. What is an Ironman?
What is one single Ironman?
Yeah, so an Ironman is a distance of a triathlon. Your 4 standard distances are going to be a sprint, an Olympic, a half, and then a full. And so what we did was the full Ironman, which is known as the full distance triathlon. Ironman is just a brand. So the full distance triathlon is a 2.4 mile swim, a 112 mile bike ride, followed by a full marathon run, which is 26.2 miles. Total all those bad boys up, and it's 140.6 miles. In a sanctioned event that's done globally around the world, you have 17 hours to make the final cutoff in order to be able to say you've completed the distance.
Got it. So Ben, he said he swam 2.4 miles. When was the last time you ran 2.4 miles?
Years.
He's a lifter, right?
Years.
So
Yeah, just lift the weight the faster is my cardio.
James, you lost me when you said swim and water.
Wow.
Why is that?
Why is that?
I'm just saying. Why is that?
No, dude.
Water, and I was like,
Oh man.
Dude, I get it. You're not alone. I've literally traveled to 55 different countries to speak and race in, and the number one reason why people fear this Ironman distance and even triathlon, the shorter distances, is that it's the water. A lot of people didn't grow up being in the water, being comfortable in the water, and then you throw, okay, so now let's go into the ocean for some of these races. Let's throw 2,000 athletes and then fire a gun and let them have at it. And you know, we're on different fields of play, and I don't want to play on the fields that you've been on, but our field, when that gun goes off, that's 2,000 athletes that are going to kick you in the face, punch you, swim over top of you, pull you down in the water. if you don't have the ability to relax in that moment, dude, it can end you, and you're going to, that you can't breathe in water. And so if you panic and freak out and you can't control the environment around you, it can get really real really quick.
And that's the first leg of the event.
Yeah, swim, bike, run. Finishes with the run.
So everyone is fresh, adrenaline's going, and like you said, it's like that big brother that used to pull you down in the swimming pool and not let you breathe for 2.4 miles.
Yeah,
That's what it is. Ready, go. It's a human blender is what it is.
Oh my gosh.
Well, hey, James, what we want to do, man, is we want to go back, because we talk about the journey, and and it's not just your journey and what you're doing as far as Ironmans, but it's about your journey as far as your life. And we want to take you back to the beginning, where you grew up, how your family dynamics were, how it was as a kid. Can you give us a little background on, where you grew up and the family dynamics?
Yeah, and just really quickly, the reason part of that is what drove this man to make the decision to do not only one Ironman, but like to go through this gauntlet that you put yourself through, and what was that in your childhood like wired it? Because one thing that we always talk about is like, everybody's journey is different. When we talk to these high achievers and there's things that happen in your life that relate to other people. May not be the same, but to me, it's encouraging to hear someone that's accomplished what you have and to understand how you got to that point.
Yeah, it's interesting. You said everybody's journey is different, and I'll add to that everybody's heart is different. And we're walking around and judging everybody and this and that and the shoes there and this and that, and we don't know their past experience or what they're dealing with or what their level of comprehension of hard is. And so we just want to be careful and respect everybody's journey and everybody's hard. But I grew up in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. So yeah, that's right. And Calgary Stampeders right there. But I grew up loving sports, did everything I possibly could. I've got 3 sisters, no brothers. Not an athletic bone in any of my family line that I can find. And so I don't know where my love for sports came from. I just started consuming everything that I could. And then in early years of school, I did every sport just across the board as much as I could whenever I could. And it was about 7th grade that I first started wrestling. And just really gravitated towards that. Did all the sports through junior high. And then kind of high school, I made a decision. I'm gonna go all in on wrestling, and I'm just gonna do that. And just loved the sport, loved the mental grind, loved the fact that when you're on the mat, mano a mano, nobody, I can't dish it out and have you hit a 3 for me.
Yep.
If I win, my fault. If I lose, my fault, right? And so I loved that aspect of it, and just really started to enjoy the mental grind and the visualization of that combat. And as far as family dynamics, my father, man, super hard worker, blue collar, grew up a firefighter, did electrical work on the side, always gave us kids an opportunity to work. And I mean, I had a paper route as an early kid. We would shovel walks in the winter for families, just do whatever we could, a lot of church service. And then my mom was a homemaker, and so she took care of us 4 kids. My dad worked really hard so that could happen. And then my mom always had these like big dreams and things that she wanted to do. And so I kind of looked at my dad and I was like, man, he works really hard and just like doesn't have big dreams and aspirations. And like, he's just going to work 40 years, retire and get a pension. And then I looked at my mom and I'm like, wow, she's a dreamer and that looks like fun and all these aspirations and goals, but she's not really doing them. And I kind of looked at both of those and I was like, well, what if I took the hardworking part of that and the dreaming part of that and I put them together? Now, what can we do? And I was kind of criticized, kind of moving out of home because my dad didn't really understand the entrepreneur side of stuff. And for me, I was just like, man, let's go after this. Let's try to do different things. And so the progression for me athletically was all sports, wrestling all in for 7 or 8 years. Ended up going to the national championships for Canada. Went undefeated my senior year, won state. Once you graduate from high school, you're kind of out. I mean, there's no more real opportunities for wrestling. MMA wasn't big 20 years ago. And so there wasn't really an outlet. A couple buddies of mine were golfers, and so I dove into golf and love it. And even still to this day, I'm going to Pebble Beach in December.
Oh,
Just like love golf. Like people would look at my story and go, "Oh, he loves triathlon." No, I love golf. And so that's kind of my escape. And then I found triathlon after I started my little family. My wife and I got into running together. And then I literally, I didn't, like you, Darren, I didn't know how to swim. And I got into a pool, and I literally couldn't make it to the other side of the pool without like holding onto the wall. And so I'm like, okay, I gotta figure this out. If I'm going to do this like little tiny sprint triathlon. And there's literally a picture of me in my very first race, where I've got a nose plug on. I've got like my goggles are sideways. I'm hanging on the edge of the pool. I'm gasping for air. And I guarantee you, I look at that picture now and I'm like, no way that dude goes on to do, what our family's been able to go out and accomplish. And so talking about the journey, it's amazing. And what I find super interesting is if you look at the sports that I resonated with and towards, they're all individual sports. And they all take a lot of like real intense mental grinding. I mean, if you don't play golf, it's hard to really appreciate what those guys do on TV and how they work the ball and the consistency, but the pressure that's on them to be mentally tough for 4 days is just astounding to me. But the correlation between the wrestling, the triathlon, and golf is just like solo pursuits. It's like your preparation, your mindset, and then your willingness and ability to show up when the pressure's on, right? And so kind of sums up my journey there, and where I came from. And there's a lot of holes in there. Obviously that was 40. I'm 44 now, so I'm an old man. We just talked about earlier before we started record. I got 5 kids, and my oldest daughter just turned 18, and so that's kind of and that's a weird moment too.
There's one thing you said there that sticks with me. You said at one point the family pursuit. It wasn't the individual pursuit. The things that you've done, it sounded like you brought in your family. Like this hasn't just been you. Like your family has had to make this sacrifice along with you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not the Iron Cowboy. We're the Iron Cowboy. And one of the other things I love to help people understand is that nothing great is ever accomplished on our own. Mm-hmm. And even though, I mean, you didn't win that Super Bowl without all of your teammates, and you understand that at the highest level. And for me, although on race day, it's a solo pursuit, but to get to that moment, man, there is a massive team behind what we do. And my massive team is obviously my family, and then some other individuals. But I mean, at the highest level, to achieve anything great, whether it's parenting, business, it's a team effort to accomplish anything at a high level.
Yeah, totally agree. Let's key in on the part. So you mentioned after your senior year, there wasn't really wrestling you could go on beyond that. What did you do? You talked about being an entrepreneur, but what exactly were you doing after high school?
Yeah, kind of just spinning around. I actually worked at a nightclub in Calgary and started bartending. And so bartended and clubbed at night, and then casinoed and golfed in the days. So it not ideal. I mean, making my mom super proud in those moments, in what I was doing, but just was kind of living life and trying to figure things out. I've shared this story before. Maybe you guys have heard it, maybe you haven't, but the Calgary's world famous for the Calgary Stampede. Yeah. And it's one of the largest rodeo stops on the planet, $1 million prize purses for these guys. And just the city shuts down, and the Calgary Stampede, the Calgary Stampede is 10 days long. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, it's legit, like it shuts down. Yeah. And I was straight on, had gone to the Stampede every single year of my life, parades and rides and food, all of it. And early 20s, kind of trying to figure life out. this radio show announces this contest, and they say, hey, we want to find out who's got some staying power and some mental capacity for boredom. We want to find out who can ride the giant Ferris wheel for the 10 days of the Stampede. And I was like, shoot, I can do that for 10 grand. I'm in. I'll throw my hat in that ring. And called the radio station, right time, right song, got on the ride, and ended up winning. I was the only guy that stayed on for the 10 days. Got fired like about halfway through the 10 days. I didn't have a job coming out, and I literally, it was a pivot point in my life because I had some money, I had some free time, and I had one buddy that lived here in Utah. I served a church mission, and I met him in Europe, and then he was my one friend here, and I was like, hey, I'm going to go visit my buddy in Utah, and I hitchhiked a ride to Utah. Did one semester at the local college here, and ended up meeting my wife. And next month we're actually going to celebrate 20 years of marriage. And so the Ferris wheel and mentally grinding out 10 days of absolute boredom totally put me on this path. I have no idea what I'd be doing if I was still in Calgary and running bars and gambling and golfing during. I don't know. So kind of grateful for that radio contest that I got to be part of.
Let's go to that Ferris wheel because
Let's go back there.
What a great, just metaphor for life, right? I'm just kidding. But when you're sitting there, I guess the obvious question comes to mind: where do you go to the bathroom? What do you eat? What do you do for 10 days on a Ferris wheel? Because you're just going back in a circle for 10 straight days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you had 2 10-minute breaks a day, and during those 2 10-minute breaks, you got to eat and go to the bathroom. And so it was like this like, I got to figure out how to not eat very much so that I don't have to go to the bathroom, but need to feel not starve myself. I mean, you had to figure it all out along the way. But yeah, they just wanted to see if you can endure mental boredom. And what
I just want to know what was the competition like? I mean, who signs up for that kind of stuff, man? Seriously, like, I mean, the thought process of 10 straight days, I'm on this damn Ferris wheel. And I'm looking at my competition. Are you like mean mugging your competition from afar or what? What are you doing?
Well, what happens? Well, and you get the type of individual that either thinks. Obviously, everybody that signed up thought they could do it, but you get an individual that says, "Okay, I either have free time and $10,000 is really appealing for me, and I'm going to give this a go." Like I'm unemployed, or someone like me that's like, "No, I'm going to win the 10 grand. You are going to have to throw me off the ride." And I'm willing to lose my job because I know I can win. But it's the way that it started was they're the big buckets, and it started with 10 people, and they put 5 in one bucket on one side, 5 on the other. And so for the first half, you don't know the other 5 people, and yet you kind of cross and you like stink eyeing them and what they're doing over in their cart. And then the other people, you like, there was a couple strategies like don't say anything to anybody or just annoy the hell out of them so they get off. and so I'm a kind of an introvert, and I played the like, I'm not going to talk to anybody, don't bother me. And I just, to be honest with you, I think it's something that everybody should do. Not necessarily the Ferris wheel, but an opportunity where you go in isolation and get to know you and who you are and your thoughts, unplugged from society, unplugged from electronics. We just did this, and I don't know if we'll get into this later, but we just did this last year, this race in Fiji called the World's Toughest Race. It's 10 episodes on Amazon Prime, map and compass, no technology, mountaineering, jungle trekking. Mark Burnett produced it. Teams of 4, 67 teams from 30 countries.
So small world, I hate to cut you off, small world, is I literally filled that application out. Justin Forsett asked me to do it. I'm so glad that I didn't do it because I'd be going to get the guy that'll sit on Ferris wheel for 10 days. Literally, I'm filling it out, and the application's like, you could fall off cliffs, you could die, you could do this. And my wife's like, you're not going. Like, there's no chance. Like, oh, darn. Couldn't do it. Sorry, go ahead. But small world.
Yeah, no. What an unbelievable experience that was. But things like that where you have to unplug. I love talking about, because we live in a soft generation in society nowadays, especially in the United States. I love talking about doing things intentionally that are hard. And I think people need to seek out those difficult situations, because it forces you to have conversations with yourself. And that Ferris wheel experience, where, because my game plan was like, don't talk to anybody, and I'm just gonna have conversations with myself and ask myself questions and solve world problems and plan for the future and forgive the past and all these different things, right? And so I think everybody needs to do something like that in their lives. And I think it should be a yearly thing that people do, is unplug, ask yourself some real questions, see if you're headed in the right direction in life, see if you even like who you are.
Yeah,
Oh,
see,
yeah.
I love, because we are so consumed with being busy. I mean, you can't stand in line at the grocery store without pulling out your phone and getting onto it. And just like you said, like, to be in your own head. I mean, we avoid it at all costs. And I mean, that's a great exercise. Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and take off a week, guys. I need it.
Find you a Ferris
I
wheel.
need it.
I mean, that's huge, man. I mean, you just said it. It's like, how often do we sit back and try to, and I always say it, man, I don't know how much I like myself, like when I'm alone, but because there's so many things, you find out so many things about yourself that in times of silence. And that's, that can be scary for a lot of folks, man, to go down that path.
Well, I think it's essential to go down that path, because people need to change for the better. And you don't do that without resistance and breaking through. And as humans, you just said it in a different way, but we're toughest on ourselves, and we're our toughest critics. And so when we have those conversations with ourselves and we don't like who it is, that's when we reach for the phone and try to distract ourselves, when we really should be going, okay, that dude sucks, and I don't enjoy that version of me. How do I not have that guy be a main character in my life? And I think that's what we do. Is there's so many distractions in today's world that we can run and hide from the crap versions of ourselves. And everybody's goal should be to try to figure out who the best version is, and to eliminate and shed off these toxic versions of, or moments, who we are in our lives, because we're all human. We all make mistakes, and not being critical of anybody. Hell, I'm not perfect. I make screw up all the time.
Yeah, if we stay
as long as we
busy,
strive.
yeah, sorry. I mean, if we stay busy, we don't have to face ourselves, right? We don't give ourselves time to sit in quiet, like you're talking about, and really face ourselves. So if we keep striving, if we keep staying busy, we don't have to have that uncomfortable time.
Well,
So,
and then you get and then you get the outlier that, like, doesn't doesn't have connection and growth, and then goes and does a mass shooting. And we go down that route, and obviously that was an extreme example, but as a society, we need to start having conversations with ourselves. And then look, don't try to solve all of your own problems. Go seek professional help. Surround yourself with great people. Talk, communicate. That's the other thing that we've lost, is the ability to communicate and express feelings, as we hide behind everything that we're doing and all of the distractions, and it's causing a destructive people.
Man,
yeah, that's wrong.
That's so true. So true. All right. So you win this, the Ferris wheel contest. You got some change in your pocket. You go visit your buddy. Talk us through meeting your wife, right? Because, with 5 children, I mean, she's got to be a special lady, to watch her husband, help her husband go through, these Ironman races and do what you've done. So talk us through that how you met her, what that was like, and kind of the relationship as it progressed.
Yeah, I married way up. We'll get that off the table right now. Dude, probably the worst pickup line on the planet. I mean, I saw her. She was psychology class. I waited for her to come out, and I was just like, "Hey, you smell good," and that was it.
Hey, you get arrested for that these days.
You can't do that. You can't do that anymore. 20 years later, and you can't say that. But it worked, and we got super lucky. She was 19, I was 24. We grew up together, and we had all 5 kids. She wants to be a young grandmother, and so we had 5 kids in 6.5 years. She was 28 when we had the 5th one, and as a family, we've just grown through these different challenges. And my wife's name is Sunny, and she gets asked the question all the time, like, what do you think of the craziness that he does? And she's like, I knew who he was when I married him, and we've grown through the craziness together. You don't just wake up one day and go, you know what, 50 Ironmans in 50 days, that's the next jam. It's a progress to get there. You guys know, like when you're in the middle of something, it's the hardest thing you've ever done based on your past experience, and you're in the middle of pushing boundaries. And I couldn't do a sprint triathlon. I couldn't swim 500 meters. And that was the hardest thing for me. And as I gained experience and knowledge and continued to grow, it led me to where I could do an Ironman, to then where we broke a world record for the most half Ironmans, broke the world record for the most full Ironmans. Dude, when you're in the middle of a world record and it's 30 Ironmans through 11 countries, you're like, this is the hardest thing I can ever do. And then you accomplish it and you go, okay, perception and perspective is now different. I have knowledge, I have experience, I've evolved. And then you go, okay, now I truly believe that 50 consecutive Ironmans is possible. Where you can't come out of the gates and go, I'm going to do 50. There's a lot of guys that have tried it since I've done it over the past 5 years. Not a single one of them has come close. And it's because they jump right to the 50, and they don't do they see the headline and the way our life is now and what we've accomplished, and like, I want that. But they're not willing to do the half Ironman world record, the full, all of those many steps to get to the moment where, I mean, to be honest with you, leading up to the 50, people were like, media and interviews stuff, they were like, hey, what are your chances of finishing the 50? And I was like, what the hell are you talking about? I don't even understand this question. Because in my mind, it's 300%. I've already done it. I've visualized it. I've experienced it. I've felt it. I've crossed every finish line. I've done all of that work. I've done the decade worth of stuff. And so I was confused by that mindset of that train of thought of like, what do you think your chances are? And so that's where people fail, is they see the headline, but they don't realize 10, 15 years of everything that went into it. And people look at, yeah, he's got a Super Bowl ring. No, dude, everything that went before the moment. I mean, that's what led up to that immediate overnight accomplishment. But there was so much groundwork that led to that.
Yeah, to that exact point. So we see the big accomplishment, which is the 50 and 50. But what was the first step? Because I think we see these big goals and we get so paralyzed by the analysis of it that we forget to take the first step. So for you, what made you sign up for that first half or
sprint?
The sprint triathlon. What made you take that first step to eventually be able to accomplish the massive goal?
Yeah, I mean, and there's no way that 50 consecutive Ironmans was even in my peripheral or even on the table. I mean, you can't even conceptualize something like that when a decade before. So my journey literally started. I was a wrestler. I was in the gym. I got into golf. I met my wife. I was trying to get my pro card. I was golfing every day, working at a golf shop here locally, and then we had 2 kids, and I'm like, I'm not making any money. This isn't working. I probably need to buy a house, and I got to do what society tells me to do. I got to get a real job, all these things. And I was kind of struggling, and my wife was like, hey, let's go do this Thanksgiving 4-mile fun run. And I was like, fun run? What the hell you no, you can't say fun and run together. Like, stop it. Like, that's stupid. You
You
can't say
correlate
that.
running to wrestling and cutting weight. Like, I'm only running right now because I got to shed these 6 pounds in 4 hours. Yeah,
Exactly. And I'm like, the only reason I'm running on the golf course right now is because the cart girl missed me, and I need my Doritos right now, right? And that's why I'm running. You passed me up. And so I'm like, okay, sweetheart, yeah, let's go do this 4-mile fun run. And I went and I started running, and man, I felt like my heart was gonna explode. My lungs through my chest. I'm like 3 miles into this thing, and I look over, and like these women in like yoga pants are pushing their kids in strollers, like talking, blitzing by me, and I'm like feeling like I'm gonna explode. And we went to it was Thanksgiving morning, and I went to Thanksgiving dinner with the family that night, and I'm like in the corner feeling sorry for myself, coughing, I can't breathe still. And literally my wife, Sunny, she comes over to me. She's like, dude, you're freaking pathetic. Like, I'm signing you up for a marathon. It's in 4 months. Go figure it out. And I'm like, okay, I got this. And so I like I went to the sports store. I bought the most expensive pair of running shoes I could find. I'm like, these have got to be good. They're expensive. And I went online, and there wasn't a ton of information, but I started to follow this little program, and I went to the marathon, and I friggin' hated it. I threw up at the finish line. I was like, it was a disaster.
The full marathon. Not
I did.
It was a full.
No, I did a full marathon. And it was funny because I was big into the fight game. MMA was starting to get bigger by this point. I went to some fights in Salt Lake City that night, and I'm like, I got in my seat, and I'm like, I'm not moving. I'm just watching the show. And excuse me, hours later, the show ends, and I go to stand up, and I can't. Like, my knees have swollen up to the size of like cantaloupes. I literally imagine the machoist environment on the planet, and I'm like, hey, can I get a wheelchair?
Someone help me, please.
I can't stand up.
I can't stand up. I get wheelchaired out of the stadium to get to my car. I literally can't straighten my legs outside. My buddy drives me home. She drops me off. My wife goes to church the next day, and they're like, hey, where's your husband? She's like, oh, we both did the marathon, but he can't move today. And so, like, all of this happens at the same time, and I'm like, okay, I can't let this moment define me. Like, this isn't who I am. Like, I think I was 20, maybe 26, 27. I'm like, I'm a physical specimen. Like, I looked good. Like, I would take my shirt off and I look in the mirror at the gym, and I'm like, I look good. But I was a disaster, like, cardiovascularly, and all the muscles and ligaments and tendons that are supporting the big muscles. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to figure this out. And a buddy of mine, it was right in Lance Armstrong's prime. I went over to his house. I watched the Tour de France. I was like, whoa, cycling, that's pretty cool. And then he was kind of big into the triathlon scene here. That was just getting going. And he's like, dude, come do this sprint triathlon with me. And I'm like, do I have to swim? Is that like part of it? And I'm like, I don't have a bike. And so I went and bought a $400 Walmart special, and then just cranked this thing out. And I fell in love with it. I was like trying to figure out the 3 different sports. And then there was a mindset component. And I was like, man, I didn't eat anything during that. That sucks. I should probably learn how to fuel this thing. And then just things started to escalate. I got into the tri world, and I just loved the camaraderie. Like, it was a great escape as an adult. Dude, I don't even want to say this, but I took a job managing Michael's Arts and Crafts because I needed to provide for the family. And so I was like miserable all day. I'm like selling flowers to these ladies, and there's like glue sticks and buttons and like all this. And I'm like, this is not who I am. Like, this sucks. And so I'm like, dude, we got to do something different. And then so the triathlon became this escape for me that I loved. And I just started to go down that road. And then I just fell in love with the sport. And I think I truly loved that I'd never biked, I'd never swam, I'd never run. And I had to like figure out how to become an expert at all of those. And then the mindset stuff I loved. Mm-hmm. And then figuring out the recovery and the nutrition. There was like 6 different elements to become really good at this sport. And so that's what really drew me in. And it's just been an amazing journey to go down that road. And now we coach athletes, and we've got a whole program that we help athletes get going in the sport that we've pioneered.
Man, that's so crazy to me, because I think so. And we talk about it a lot on the show. We're so enamored with finding our passion, right? And then the work will become easy because like it's something that we're passionate about, something we love doing. Like you were with golf, right? Like you loved playing golf, like you and still do, right? So it's like, okay, it doesn't seem like work. But when you're talking about triathlons, it sounds like you hated the actual sport at the beginning.
Dude, running still sucks. Are you kidding?
Totally agree.
Yeah, okay, good. But you had the mindset. It was more about, okay, like, yes, the camaraderie, like the ancillary benefits that come from the sport. I enjoy those so much more. The training, the mental toughness, the strategy, the camaraderie, all those things that come with it. But the actual sport we hate because I feel like culturally today, if it's hard, I don't want to do it. I don't care what the benefit is on the other side of it. Like if it's hard, I don't want to do it. And you were like, no, I'm going to take it head on. Like this, I couldn't pick 3 more miserable sporting events to do, and I'm going to combine them. But because of those, now you've got a good community. I've got, some health and fitness that like is just escalating. I mean, that's so crazy to me.
Yeah.
that's you continued to progress to the highest level of the sport and you hated it.
Well, yeah. Well, I've learned to really enjoy swimming now. It's kind of an escape. Everything kind of goes quiet. You have to unplug from technology, I actually really enjoy trail running now. Road running, I don't do it very often. I do some speed work on the treadmill, and then I live in an unbelievable place where I can just escape up in the mountains, I actually really enjoy it now. Longest I've run, I did a run in Greece that was 235 miles. And that was brutal.
Wait, what did you just say?
He said a 2 in front of that. I heard that.
235?
It's 235 miles, but I like riding my bike way more. Probably the hardest. I just
downhill. 235 miles on a bike sounds way better.
Well, just 2 weeks ago we broke a course record in California. I rode 385 miles straight in 27 hours. But one of the coolest, toughest bike rides I've ever done was we took a team and we were the first group to ever ride our bikes to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro in Africa, 20,000 feet.
On a bike.
Yeah, we took our mountain bikes to the top.
Hey, by the way, he just ran from Dallas to Houston. Just to relate, like us Texans, right? Like, yeah, Dallas to Houston. That's unbelievable.
So let me go back. I want to go back on this because it sounds like to me, James, you've been motivated by your failures early on. Like the fact that you failed through some processes early on, and and I think it's similar. I really caught that because it's similar to my story is if I fail or I'm not that good at something, then I'm like, okay, I'm going to show everybody. First of all, I'm going to show everyone else. Then I'm going to show myself that I can accomplish this. I mean, is there some similarities in the fact that you were motivated by your failures?
Yeah, I love the way that you just phrased that because even though it's the same outcome, it's a different energy. And so what I mean by that is like when we started the 50 and we were starting to have problems and difficulties and failures, it was kind of me like out there trying to prove everybody else wrong. And I wanted to like really pound my chest and put it in your face that I could do this. And as soon as I shifted my mindset, my energy to want to prove myself right, then that was a huge mindset and energy shift, and we were able to start to progress at a higher level and execute way better. As soon as the entire team was like, okay, we're out here with each other, focus and attention isn't on anybody else, any negativity. We're going to focus right now what we can control. We're going to prove ourselves right that we can do this, that we did the work that it takes. And yeah, I'm motivated by failures, but I'm also motivated by trying to push the boundaries of what others think is impossible. And it's fun because the further down this road I get, the more experience I get, and then the impossible becomes way more achievable. But it gets even further and further away from what people believe is achievable because they're still where they are in their easy, comfortable lives, enjoying pizza and porn. And so it's just this like the gap is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, right, where it's the new normal for a lot of these guys that are out there pushing limits and intentionally doing hard things, right?
Yeah. So let's get into this. We've danced around a little bit, but we've painted the picture of who you are and that you're half-assed crazy. And what led you to the 50 Ironmans in 50 days in 50 different states? I hope that resonates and people,
say that again.
People really
say that again.
50 Ironman triathlons, is that the right way to phrase it? Mm-hmm. In 50 days in 50 different states.
So essentially it's 140.6 miles a day for 14 weeks.
There you go. You said it better than I could. So what led you to that point? Why did you want to do something like that?
This will sound stupid, but it was the next natural progression in the journey that we were on. We were breaking some world records, and we broke the world record for the most official Ironman events around the world, 30 events in 11 countries. And you look back on it and you go, because the whole purpose of going into that was, one, we were raising money to build dams in Africa to give people sustaining life. And then I wanted to find out what I did when I reached my mental, physical limits. And so when you come out on the other side of that and you go, well, that didn't break me, we need what's really possible. What do I do when I'm backed into the darkest corner, and I have to figure out how to keep moving. And so that's kind of when the 50 was born. It was actually on race 27 of 30. And I knew we were going to break the record that year. And I just looked at my wife and I was like, there's so much more in the tank. And she was like, no, not right now. This is not the time nor the place. And so I pushed the verbalizing pause button, but in my brain, I just started to formulate, knowing that I hadn't hit a really dark spot, and I had so much more physically and even way more mentally to test. And then so about 6 months later, I proposed it again, and she was like, okay, let's start working towards this. And it took 2.5 years of prep after the 2012 record, to where in 2015, we kicked it off, and we call the journey Redefine Impossible. And so the purpose was it's always twofold. One, there's always a charitable component to it. We raised over $100,000 for the Jamie Oliver Foundation, which has an emphasis on the childhood obesity epidemic. We're the first generation ever where the parents were slated to outlive the kids, and that sucks. I had 5 kids, ages 6 to 12, kind of all in that demographic, to where they're products of their environment. They're either going down the right or the wrong road, depending on how their parents are guiding them and what's been placed in front of them. And so wanted to do as much as I could for that, and what a blessing. And then wanted to find out what limits to human potential was. And I still don't think we found those. So yeah, we'll see what's up.
So the planning process, so two and a half years.
Mm-hmm.
You did 50 states. I mean, why not just do it 50 times on the same course? Why not just do it? Because that would still be a world record, right?
Yeah. The purpose was to get people out and active and having an experience.
Okay.
And to be honest with you, I modeled it after my opinion, one of the biggest pioneers in this type of thing, Dean Karnazes. And he's not Forrest Gump. He is the real life Forrest Gump. Like years and years ago, he did 50 marathons, 50 days, and 50 states, and has had an unbelievable career since then, with appearances and speaking and books and all that stuff. And so I was building my coaching program, and I was like, okay, we got to do something in order to do this so that I can provide for my family and have the impact that we want. And so I was like, man, if that guy had a great career off of doing a marathon a day, what would happen if I pulled it off with an Ironman? Because an Ironman is a 2.4 swim and a 1:12 before the marathon that he did it. And so that's kind of what led me down that road of the 50 states, was kind of that model that he set up. And we really wanted to involve the country. I had the 5 kids, and I was like, okay, how do we involve them? How do we get them excited about this? And I was like, okay, if we get a motorhome while I'm doing my Ironman every day, they can go do something really cool, an amusement park, an aquarium, some sites. And they got to do something really cool every single day. We had different experiences. They had an awesome summer, and mine really sucked.
You know what? We're going through this. Let's just go through the plan here. So, how did you guys decide where to start? Logistics. I mean, you evidently you guys were in a camper, all the entire family.
Yeah, motorhome.
A motorhome. Okay, so how did the planning go? Because logistically, there has to be a team, a group of people that set out this map to figure out where the stops are going to be, where the trails are, whatnot. How did that go about?
Yeah, you're currently having a conversation with the entire team. Coming off the world records, man, I knew I was going to get signed by Nike. I was going to get specialized bikes to pick us up. We were going to get a private jet. Dude, it was on. I was proven. I'm like, this is the jam. I've done the work. I'm going to get the sponsors. And I was the marketing team. I was the web development. So I did it all. And I started sitting down with these appointments and these big companies and all these guys with all the money. And they kept all saying the same thing. And they kept saying, oh man, this is amazing. We're so excited for you, but we can't afford to associate ourselves with a failure. And,
Wow.
and I was like, I'm sorry. Did I mention the part where I broke the world records? And they were like, yeah, but this is impossible. It can't be done. And we can't tie our name to this because you're going to fail.
Oh,
and I was like, okay. And so I literally had to do all the plan. My wife was in her final year. She went back to school. And so she was in her final year getting her psychology degree. Because if I died, she needed a plan. Right? And so she was getting her psychology degree. She graduated literally the week before we left. And so she wasn't involved in any of the planning because she was we had the 5 kids. And so I was doing the fundraising, the planning, the marketing, the branding, the sponsorships. And then I had to create and figure out, this is your question, figure out logistically how to do it. And it was one of the biggest reasons everybody said that we would fail. They were like, hey, that's cute. You're from Canada. You don't realize how big the United States is. You can't do an Ironman every single day and get to the next state. And so I just started to like really research it. One of the first things I did is I went to Walmart and I bought the biggest map I could find and I put it up on the wall. And then I gave all my kids a Sharpie and I said, hey, where do you want to go? What do we want to do? And that started to get them involved in the process. And then they started to get excited about different cities and this and that. And I had a small following on social media. And I sent out a thing. I said, hey, I'm planning on doing 50 Ironmans, 50 states, 50 days. If you want to help and you're in any city, in any state, send me a message. And I started to get messages come in. And then I started to work with 50 to 100 people and started to coordinate, okay, I have support here, I have support here. Then on the big map, I started to draw lines and piece all of those cities together. And that started to create the route. Now, the 2 most difficult logistic states is
Hawaii and Alaska.
Hawaii and Alaska. You
I
can't
was just
drive
about to ask you about that.
You can't drive your motorhome. And so I had to engineer it to where Hawaii was 1, Alaska was 2. And then the team met us in Washington. And then that's where we started the caravan. And so once we figured out the flight pattern to work that would get us there in time, then I knew we had the car and the boys would drive through the night. I had 2 guys to help me. I called them the wingmen, Casey and Aaron. Casey's a 2nd grade school teacher, so he had the summers off. And I totally lied to Aaron. I told him it would be the coolest, most fun adventure, and he needed to quit his job for the summer and come with me, and he did. It was amazing. And these guys' job was to do everything for me. I'm talking food, nutrition, logistics, mechanicals. And then we were like literally day 1 in Washington. So my day 3, their day 1. Mm-hmm. We were like, hey guys, because Aaron had rode with me that day. Casey ran the marathon with me. And then I was like, hey, it's your job to drive us to the next state.
I know you just spent 9 hours.
I've got to sleep.
Right. And then so like the wheels fell off immediately on day 4. And our whole team, meaning me, my wife, my 5 kids, Casey and Aaron, we were like, oh shiz. We have to figure out how to navigate and do 47 consecutive more Ironmans. And we're already broken mentally and physically. And so it's just like, what do you do now? You've got all of this expectation. You've got everybody watching you, hoping that you fail because they want to be right. And then you're like, okay, we've got to show up tomorrow in Oregon, and then in California, and then in Nevada, and then in Arizona, and so on and so on, until you either break or you win. And we decided as a team right there, we're all in. There's no such thing as excuses. There's only problem solving in the face of adversity. And that's what we did. We went all in, and we just, us 4 strong, we just did whatever we could in the midst of chaos. And we just kept the train moving for 50 days. And we ended up in Utah on the 50th day when we were supposed to be there.
Wow. Yeah. What was that route though? I mean, just kind of walk. So you mentioned a few of them. So started in Washington, Oregon, California. Now sounds like you went along the south. Is that right? And then.
So along the bottom. So down the West Coast, along the bottom, kind of started to come up and down along the bottom, up the East Coast, and then along the top, up and down, and then drop down into Utah. So we finished Montana, Idaho, Utah.
Got it.
What was the weather like? I mean, give me one state or a couple of states with the experiences, the toughest.
106 degrees in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Oh,
100 in
And that's
Chattanooga.
humid. And
Well,
that's
humid,
humid.
too.
That's
Yeah.
not 106 in
Phoenix,
Scottsdale,
yeah, that's
where it's
true.
like, oh, nice breeze.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
When I was planning it, I was like, okay, guys, this is what we're doing. I made the announcement. I'm like 50, 50, 50, June and July 2015. And they were like, June and July? Have you ever been to the South in June and July? And I'm like, dude, I'm broke. I don't have time to go to June and July. I'm like, I'm on Google Earth trying to figure this out. Stop it. And they're like, dude, you're an idiot. And to be honest with you, it was the only time I was willing to do it because that's when my kids were out of school. And that's my team. And so like we had there was two beds, one that I slept in the back and then one where all the kids slept in. And it was just, again, they had an unbelievable summer, but I was not willing to do this. I got so lonely and borderline depressed in the 2012 world record traveling to the 11 countries because we bootstrapped it, no sponsors. But I had to do it all by myself. I mean, the family couldn't travel with me internationally, and with no money, you just can't do it. And it was a sacrifice that we made as a family. So in this one, I had an opportunity to do it with my family because they are the reason why I do what I do. One, to set the ultimate example, and two, to try to create an income and a living for them. And so that I refused to do it without them.
how was the sibling interaction like day 30, right?
Oh, dude,
Halfway through it in a motorhome.
they love each other, man. They are just they're thick as thieves.
Oh, that's awesome.
Even today, I got 4 teenage girls and they're all best friends. Like I've got 18, 17, 14, 12, 11.
Wow.
And dude, they're just all best friends.
That's awesome.
Something you said a second ago, which is a little surprising. You talked about on day 3, you started to see the friction. And that, I mean, I guess it's not surprising that obviously, things are going to pop up, but I maybe we would have thought, or I would have thought that comes down the line a little bit, but you're talking about day 3, you're already having to decide 3 days into this, am I going to keep going or am I going to back off of this?
Oh, dude, it was day number 1. So,
True.
So in Hawaii, in order to do an Ironman, catch a flight, and then get to Alaska in time to start an Ironman, we had to start at midnight. So no sleep. So we've been up for 24 hours, start at midnight, jump in the water, do the swim, jump on the airplane, whatnot. Well, in Hawaii, we didn't have permits or anything to do this because we were just doing it. And that got into trouble in the later states when we had like 400, 500, 600 people show up. Then it was crowds and we got in trouble a little bit. But in Hawaii, nobody really knew what we were doing yet. And we got pulled over in the middle of the night by the police because we had our film crew out there and they were like in the other lane trying to film us. And if it's not on Instagram, it didn't happen. And so we were trying to get the shot. And I mean, I'm telling you, Hawaii, nobody's out at night. And so this police sees this car going down the opposite side of the road. We get pulled over and they're like, guys, you can't be on this road. And I was like, oh crap, this is day number 1.
Yeah.
It's over. And the 2 wingmen were like, no, stop it. We're allowed to be here. We're not breaking any laws. We don't know them. and we're just riding our bikes on the side of the road. There's no laws against that. And so we just kind of kept riding. And he was like, okay, you guys are cool. But I mean, day number 1, at the end of this is how crazy it got early on. You can't comprehend an Ironman a day for 50 days and you can't prepare what you don't know. And so we did the best we could to prepare. But on day number 1, I was training through the winter in Utah. I get out to Hawaii. It's super hot, super humid. And the body takes time to adapt to temperatures, right? And so at the end of it, I've got this picture where my daughter's just kind of looking at me weird and I'm puking my guts out because I had heat stroke on day 1. And I threw up so violently that my diaphragm got stuck open. And for the next 2 days, I suffered from massive acid reflux and I couldn't hold, like I was just a disaster. And so we're talking like these are the first 3 days. And I didn't have my main crew yet because didn't have the money to fly them to Hawaii and Alaska. And so it was just my wife and my kids and they were my crew. And so we get to Washington and I'm like, guys, I can't like this acid is terrible when I'm trying to like do an Ironman. And so we called up my chiropractor and he's like, oh, dude, have you thrown up recently? And I'm like, I've been throwing up for 3 days. And he's like, well, it sounds like your diaphragm is stuck open. We have to dislodge that and close it. And I was like, oh, okay. How do we do that?
Yeah.
And
Simple.
he's like, just give the phone to one of the wingmen. I'll walk them through how to punch you in the chest at the right spot at the right time. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? These guys are idiots. There's no way I'm going to let them do this. But I didn't have much of a choice. So I lay down on the ground, and Casey hits me in the chest, and we hear my diaphragm that goes like clunk, and we hear it close shut, and we were just like, oh, what the hell's going on? And from that moment on, we were like, okay, this is going to be chaos. Are we all in?
Oh, dude, I couldn't imagine. You know what? If it was me and I had these two knuckleheads,
Get right?
oh my God.
I'd punch you in the chest.
Yeah, I know you would.
Ben will hold his arms behind his back. You drop kick him.
That's another question is from a health perspective. I mean, did you have a doctor guiding you here? I mean, how did you know from a, your vitals and all that? How did that work?
Yeah, I mean, I know my body pretty well, and Sonny's pretty in tune with me and my, any signs that I'm given and whatnot. It was interesting because early on I sat down with some doctors, and I'm like, hey guys, this is what I'm doing. This is my experience. This is what I want to do. This is my preparation plan. What do you guys think? And they're like, oh, you're going to die. And so I was like, oh, okay. So I'm not going to talk to doctors anymore, and we're just going to go do this.
Lots of water.
Thanks for you guys for your time. I'm just going to, water is good, right? That's hydration.
Yeah.
We're just going to figure that out. And so we did, and we just figured it out, and thank goodness I didn't die. My kids still have it.
So the pain.
Yeah,
where was the pain? There had to be pain in what extremity? Feet, back. Where was the most pain, and how did you overcome that?
Yeah, I'm gonna pull up a picture as I talk here. It's interesting because through anything, man, you just learn if you're willing to keep pushing through, your body adapts and evolves. And that's why people don't have success, is because they quit too early in the journey when it becomes uncomfortable and painful. Right. And they're like, oh, I can't do this. When in reality, that the next step is truly the most important one, because that's when you adapt and you evolve. I've almost got it. Here we go. So this is my foot about halfway through.
Oh my God. Oh. Halfway through.
Delicious.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
I mean, every nail gone?
Oh yeah.
I'm looking at.
But then you push through, and this is me on day 48.
Oh,
shredded.
Wow.
Jeez.
That's men's health there.
Yeah. It was funny. It was funny after the 50, I was on Facebook, and I'm scrolling, and I'm like, there's a before and an after picture of me, and it was promoting some like
diet
pill after 50.
8-week transformation.
Transformation. I was like, what the hell? I'm like, I didn't. I'm like, that's me, but I don't know anything about this. That was crazy. I joke now all the time from stage, and I'm like, hey guys, I put that picture up, and I'm like, we're about to release a weight loss program. It's 50 days only. You can eat 12,000 calories a day, and you're guaranteed the best abs you'll ever have in your life. So yeah, you just learn to manage pain. And what's amazing, if you give your body permission to heal under duress, it does. On day number.
Wait, say that again. Wait, wait, you just tried to fly over that, Jane. What do you mean by give your body permission to heal? What does that look like?
Well, most people, when they get an ache and a pain, they complain about it, and then every woman on planet will say that when a male gets sick, it's very different than when a female gets sick. And so as a society, we get an ouch or a pain, and we baby it. And so during training, I intentionally, when I was pushing the limits of overtraining and injury, I would get to a point where I'm like, okay, I've got a twinge. I should probably rest and recover until this is better. And mentally I would say no, because on the 50 that you don't have the luxury to take a day off. And so during training, I prepared my body to heal under stress and pressure. And I had a great team here that would work on me physically. And I would say, okay, I've still got to go bike the 80 miles tomorrow and do my 10 miles worth of intervals, even though my foot isn't 100%. let's work on it now. And then mentally I would tell my body, okay, this is what I need you to do. I'm going to go do this work and I need you to heal because I can't stop. And a lot of people don't have that ability or control. And it was interesting throughout the 50, like on day number 5, I had shoulder problems because of wrestling, and then the amount of training volume we did leading up to the 50 and the swim. On day number 5, I tore my shoulder and started to have incredible amounts of pain. And I was like, oh crap, I've got 45 more 2.4 mile swims to do. Okay, we just have to figure out how to manage that pain, and hopefully the muscle doesn't fall off the bone. And every single day I'd get treatment after the day was over. And I mean, mentally I would say, okay, you've got, 4 hours before you have to start again. Start the healing process now, because we're going to do it again tomorrow. And the body starts to trust that an Ironman a day is the new normal. And so I have to do everything I can to repair. And it starts to trust the fact that he's going to get up tomorrow and do another Ironman. I have to do, meaning I, the body, has to do everything I can in order to heal. And where magic happens, and where most people aren't willing to go to, is when the mind and the body becomes into sync with each other. And now that's when you can perform at the highest level. People don't push through boundaries and find human potential because the mind and the body aren't in sync and at the same place at the same time. So once you can sync those guys up and get past the point of discomfort and just learn how to manage pain, like that picture I showed you of my foot, that was halfway through. That was day 16, 17, 18. But then it was through the highest point of trauma, and it started to heal. I could show you pictures from the final day, and that my feet look 1,000 times better than that, because the body said, okay, I don't know how many he's doing, but he keeps showing up and he's doing an Ironman every single day. So I have to get his body in a state. Now, when I finished 50 and then about 3 days after the 50, my brain kept saying, okay, I'm done. And then my mind let go of everything that it was masking, and then it starts a whole new journey of the recovery process and bringing your body back to health, right? Because we were obviously deteriorating the body. But it's amazing the power of the mind and what is possible when you don't give it permission to hurt or to ache, and you command
That's gold, man. Yeah, that is gold.
Yeah. Speaking of the power of the mind, we've had Navy SEALs on in the past, and they talk about the difference between the guys that make it and those that don't are the ones that are able to compact time. All they see is the next evolution. They don't think about 8 weeks from now. They just think about the next evolution. So I'm curious, for you in these 50 days, did you see, okay, 50 days, now 49, 48, or were you able to compact it all down? I've got to make it through this swim right now, and then this bike, and this. I'm just curious how you attacked that particular.
Yeah, early on when there's excitement and whatnot, and you can say, okay, 47 more Ironmans to go, and the brain can internalize that. As I got deeper into the process, and your mind starts to slow down and your body starts to break down, and you're trying to figure out how to navigate all the emotions, and then all the chaos and negativity and everything starts to compound. And you have to have the mental ability to be perfect 1 second at a time. And you have to be able to control only the one thing that's in front of you, and nothing else matters. And it's called catastrophism, when you start looking too far down the road and you start to get overwhelmed in anxiety because of an event, an Ironman a week from now that's irrelevant if you don't make it to that point. And I had a complete breakdown, and you can see it in the documentary. I had a complete breakdown on day 30. And I was focusing on everything that I couldn't control. And it got to the point where no one on the team was allowed to say I'm tired. We couldn't talk in double digits. Everything had to be single digits. So if I had 15 Ironmans to go, it was, I've got 9 to go till 6 to go. And my brain could compute 9. It could compute 6. It couldn't compute 15. And so once we started to shift the language that we were talking and the where we were putting our focus and attention, everything changed. Those last 20 Ironmans were my fastest. And the final and 50th Ironman was an 11:32 Ironman, and we went under 7-minute miles during portions of the marathon.
Oh,
It was totally an out of body experience that I think everybody's capable of having,
Right.
but they're unwilling to show up on a consistent basis.
Yeah. It's that conversation you have, because we've talked about on the show in the past. I have a history of quitting in my past. And most of the time it's because I would look so far down ahead and see this massive goal, and I would just get discouraged. And so what I've learned over time, and it sounds like you were able to do, is that you just broke it down.
Yep.
And you said, no, let's take a bite today. That's all we got to do. We just got to worry about today.
Yeah, real quick, if you're tired of starting over, stop giving up. I love that. And then the reason people give up is because they're filled with anxiety, and the sense of being overwhelmed, because they set this monster goal, which is so important. They need to give the goal the time respect that it deserves. And then what people need to do is write out a game plan. And once you write out the game plan, you need to shelf the big goal. You need to shelf moments that are in the future, and you need to isolate the top 3 things today that are going to move the needle. And then of those 3 things, you do the one that gives you the most fear and anxiety, and do it first. And then every day you're only doing 3 things. And if you had a great day and you've done 3, pull 1 more off the big list. But the big goal, shelf it. The game plan, have it. The list, put it aside. Isolate the top 3 and the most difficult one every single day. Attack that first, and eventually you're going to show up. Because I coach Ironman triathletes, and this guy will get motivated, inspired to come to me. I want to do an Ironman. We talk about it. We lay out the game plan. He does workout number 1, and he's like, I can't do an Ironman. That was hella hard. And I'm like, dude, we're not doing an Ironman. The only goal we have is today's workout. I've got the plan. We got you. We're going to get you there. And then once we start focusing on today's goal is today's workout, that's all you have to worry about. I got the plan dialed in. We get to race day, and you're able to do it because we've evolved and progressed throughout the journey and followed the game plan. Now Ironman becomes a victory lap because you've survived the training, but it's only because you focused on what was right in front of you and what you could control. And that's the moment where you can do that, because you're only at that level. Don't look at 6 weeks from now. We're not there yet. And you can't do that workout 6 weeks from now because you haven't done the work,
right?
And you haven't put in the time to be able to do that little dipper there.
I tell you what, we've done 60, 70 episodes. That's some of the best advice we've gotten on this entire show.
100%.
What you just said there about the three things you can do every single day. Goals have always been fascinating to me, so I'm curious for you, how did the realization or the accomplishment compare to what you played up in your head for those 50 days?
It's interesting. We had no idea what the 50 was going to do. And again, it's one of those things that we couldn't control. We figured in the back of our minds it would do something, it would be big. We had no idea that anybody would care. We were just trying to raise money for charity, and it's been crazy. We have since, I've spoken and been invited to speak in 48 countries around the world. No marketing, no advertising, no nothing. And that's been totally life-changing. What was the original question?
How was the when you accomplished the goal, how's the reality of that compared to the expectation prior?
Yeah, sorry. The reality of it was incredibly gratifying. The accomplishment of it was normal and, in my mind, expected, because I'd been there before. But the results that came from it were not. I had, like I said earlier, I had done all 50 in my mind, and then every training session I felt it, and I'd already done it, and so that felt normal to me, to have done it. It was a huge sigh of relief once we did do it, because that there's that whole pressure, and you didn't let your family down, and you brought a lot of people with you. And then what happened afterwards was totally unexpected, and has been just a massive blessing in our lives for the past 6 years now.
I'm sure that I already know the answer to this, because just your history and how you are, okay, next record, next goal, next this. But I think part of Ben's question that we ask is like, hey, we have this, hey, when I get there, then I will be happy. Or so when you had this goal, like internally and personally, did you feel like, oh, man, that's exactly what I'd hoped I'd feel like on the other side of this? Not necessarily the tangible effects, but like, did you feel like, man, that's what I hoped I'd feel like. And that has gotten me what I had, hoped to get out of this.
Yeah, great question. I love that perspective. The 50th finish line felt better than I expected or wanted it to. But we talk more about the experiences, the people, the impact that we had along the way than we do about that pinnacle moment.
Yeah.
And it's to your point, society does live in a
I'll be happy when.
I'll be happy when I get there. And they're missing out on so much. I could be in a point in my life right now where, okay, I'll I'll be happy when my last kid moves out and I can jump in a Sprinter van and go golf in every state with my wife and have a good time. But man, I'd be missing out on such incredible moments and memories. And even when it's hard, I'll share a real quick story. When I did climb Mount Kilimanjaro, I was climbing my bike. Every pedal stroke hurt. My lungs were burning. The higher you get, the less oxygen there is. And I got to base camp 12,500 feet. And there was a group of veterans that were coming down that had summited the day before. And I am like pissed, I'm angry, and they're like super happy. And I'm like, what the hell's wrong with these people? This is a miserable mountain. And I remember having a conversation, and when I was talking to this group of 4 individuals, I looked down and 2 of them only had one leg and they had a prosthetic on. And it just rocked my world because moments earlier, I was complaining about how bad my legs hurt and they didn't even have a leg to complain about. And they were there on the mountain having an experience and enjoying every moment, where they could be sitting at home feeling sorry for themselves and putting all their focus and attention on everything that's going wrong in their lives. What if, I could have, would have, should have, it doesn't matter. So I woke up the next day, we summited the mountain. And when I was standing at 20,000 feet, I'm looking over all of Africa. And I can see the moon, I can see the sun, I can see the curvature of the earth. And I thought back to that same group, and the other guy in that group was completely blind. He couldn't see what I was seeing. And it rocked me again that we have no idea when something's going to be taken away from us. As we've experienced in 2020, freedoms were taken away. Tomorrow's not guaranteed. Life can change in a blink. And so you may not get to where you're trying to get to, and now you've missed everything in between. Mm-hmm. And I was standing there on top of Kilimanjaro going, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be right now.
Yeah.
And then everything changed for me. My mother always told me, James, 10% of life is what happens to you. 90% is how you choose to react to it. And Mount Kilimanjaro was just 10% of the equation. The other 90% was how I got to choose to engage and react and have that experience.
Well, and what you're talking about there is so good, because goals are scary in one of 2 ways. Number one, I don't accomplish it. Or number 2, maybe even worse, I do accomplish it and it wasn't what I hoped. It didn't bring me what I thought. So to your point, learning how to enjoy that journey, learning how to enjoy the process, that way you're going to get something out of it regardless if it ends up the way you wanted to or not. So I love that perspective.
Every goal, every finish line, every accomplishment is a stepping stone to knowledge and growth. And the only way to grow and gain knowledge is to face adversity and push through our fears. Mm-hmm. And everything else is just stepping stones and learnings along the way. And hopefully you meet people and have relationships and give a value exchange and continue on through life until you get to a point in age where you can share your knowledge, and hopefully people will retain that and the cycle continues.
And that's one thing I think that it's great, is to understand that no matter what, there is no end point. You're always growing, you're always progressing. And the sooner you can recognize, hey, look, whenever I'm there, okay, but life keeps going. That's not an end point. And once you recognize that I'm going to continue to always have more experiences, I'm going to continue to learn, I'm going to continue to physically either progress or regress, your choice. But you're constantly going. And when you have that mindset that okay, now it is about the journey, because there is no end point. There is no ultimate goal. There is no when I have this much money in my bank account, or when I meet this person or marry this person, or when, like you said, when my kids are gone, there is none of that.
There is none. Yeah.
Because you're always changing and always growing.
Like Darren, if your goal would have been to win a Super Bowl, which it was, dude, how long ago was that?
Yeah, 92. First one was 92.
Yeah, 92, right? So your life didn't end in 1992. And how many more years do you have now past that monumental goal that so many people have to try to reach that mountaintop?
Yeah.
I mean, if that would have been the pinnacle of your life, everything's downhill since 1992. That sucks, right? But it opens up doors and opportunities, and you continue to evolve and go. None of us are just standing still. We're either moving forward or we're moving backwards. And the only way to move forward and find your passion and joy in life is to continue to have experiences. Guys, I promise you, the number one question I get is, how do I become more mentally tough?
Mm-hmm.
And the only way to become more mentally tough is to show up every single day with relentless pursuit of your passions.
Mm-hmm. I think that's true.
Man, you got me wanting to run it through a brick wall right now.
Let's go.
About 26 miles, man.
No, I'll run down to the corner. That's about it. So what are you doing now? You know, you obviously accomplished that. That was years ago. So what do the last few years look like?
Yeah, literally, I had to reinvent myself as a speaker.
I'm good at it.
Wasn't in the game plan, and I've literally been invited to 48 different countries. I just spoke to the Ravens.
Yeah. I was hoping that you said that last message to those guys, because that's what, you know, a lot of football players really struggle with identity and, okay, well, when I make it to the league, then it's going to be good. And then you get there and you're
moving from one chapter to the next, you know?
Yep.
Yeah, so it's just been amazing, and I've said it already today, but after speaking to all of these different companies and NFL and, I mean, elementary school kids and you name it, you name the company, and I've had the opportunity to present to them. And the number one thing across the board is that as humans, we're toughest on ourselves and we're our worst critics. And so that just showcases how important the mindset is. Like, even though, like, the highest paid quarterback in the NFL, that guy's still a human, and he's got to wake up and put his pants on one leg at a time, like I do, and like my kids do, and whatnot. And you just have to go through life and again, live in the moment. But yeah, the last couple of years have really been coaching athletes to help them cross the finish line and have that feeling of accomplishment, to get healthy again. We've been speaking a ton. I do 60 to 80 events a year now. Obviously not this year,
right?
Which sucks, just because it's so much fun. Probably one of the greatest feelings in the world is every single event when you get off stage, you're signing books, doing whatever, and somebody says, "Hey, man, you don't know who I am, but you just changed my life."
Mm-hmm.
And that just kind of, every time, it just like humbles you and rocks your world. Because we talked about it right when we kicked this off, that everybody's heart is different and we have no idea what somebody's going through. And we live in a day in social media where everyone's posting their happy vacation and the best versions. But man, we're hurting on the inside, and everybody just wants connection. They want friendship. They want companionship. They want all those things. But here's what's interesting is, like, everybody knows what they want, right? And you could go and you could survey 100 people. Hey, what do you want? Oh yeah, I want relationship, money, time, freedom, blah, blah. And then follow it up with, hey man, what are you willing to sacrifice to get that?
Mm-hmm.
And they go, what? I don't know. I never thought of that. Well, we need to start asking the right questions. What are you willing to sacrifice in order to achieve the dreams that you want, right?
Mm-hmm.
And until you isolate those, again, it goes full back to the conversation we had before, the conversations you're having with yourself. We got to have those.
Mm-hmm.
I'm rambling.
No,
hey,
I mean, that's
on it.
That's
so good.
That is so true, man.
What people have a pen for this?
Yeah. What are you willing to give up to reach your dreams? And, you know, coming from the inner city, man, one of the things that, you know, I had to give up, or opportunities that I had to have instant cash right in front of me. I had friends who had instant cash, whether it was drug dealing, whether it was, you know, stealing or whatnot. I saw the nice clothes, the nice cars, and the nice jeans and whatnot. But at the same time, man, you have to be, if your goal is what you want it to be, if there's something that you really want in your life, I mean, you have to be willing to avoid, like, it's almost like, you know, looking through through a microscope of this is what I want to accomplish. But when I'm listening to you, man, there's so much about overcoming the fears. Like, I mean, fear has been debilitating for so many people, including self. You have to overcome those fears and run through those walls, man. And it's been an inspiration listening to your story today, James, because, you know, you're one of those guys that, you know, I'm not going to say you've accomplished everything in your life, because you haven't. Your life's still continuing to go. But to have a plan and to actually, you know, dig in every single day to accomplish that plan is something that's amazing, because there's so many of us out there right now, even those that are listening, who follow it for that plan for a couple days, maybe a couple of weeks, maybe 3 days, you know, whatever it is, but never get to the finish line because of fear and because they can't accomplish or can't overcome an obstacle. So, man, appreciate the conversation today.
Absolutely. Let me just hit on fear real quick. I think one of the most important things that people need to realize is fear is just an emotion. Mm-hmm. And just like happiness is an emotion, just like jealousy is an emotion. We get to choose how we react to every situation and how we interact with those around us and with our emotions. And there are so many resources out there now that if you do have fears or anxiety or depression, go get that help. Yeah. It's out there. Again, we are getting in our own way of success, and fear is just an emotion. And as soon as we can learn to control that emotion, because we've proven through society that emotions can be controlled with continuing to evolve as humans and go down the path of learning. And so if we can control the emotion, it opens up so many doors and frees us as humans and allows us to go find our passions and reach our greatest potential. I absolutely appreciated the time today, guys. I do a lot of podcasts, and this one's been fun. Yeah. So I appreciate the conversation and allowing us to share our very small journey.
I got one question, and Ben's going to give us our final question. Yeah. When you talked about the journey, the 50 states, right, in 50 days, right? Mm-hmm. And when you started off, you know, things weren't going the right way, and, you know, you had some mishaps and you had to overcome some obstacles early on. But you said in the beginning, there was no one there watching. When you're in Hawaii, no one started the journey with you but your team, right? Just your team. But you made mention you were in one state and there were 600 people that were sitting there watching. What was your thought? Did you ever think back to go, I remember when there was no one watching? And now here we are.
Yeah, the final day in Utah, we had 3,500 people that showed up. Wow. And wanted to experience that day, and it's extremely humbling. I mentioned before that the feeling when someone comes up to you and says those words when you get off stage. But without fail, every single day, we'll receive a message either on direct message or email where I don't know the person, and they'll say, hey, you don't know me. You may not even read this. But because of the example you guys set, I've been able to overcome alcoholism, drug addiction, domestic violence, all of these things. You've given me the courage to go back to medical school. I mean, bullying, I mean, you name it, all the things that have happened, to watch our family push through adversity and continue to fight, to get those messages is what makes all of this worth it. And I don't care if there's nobody watching our pursuits live. My main goal is to leave a legacy that people can watch the story, feel something, and make a change for better in their life, escape the mental torture that they're going through, and live a life of adventure and whatever their passion is to them. That's all I care about. I don't care if 10 people follow me or 1 million people follow me. If I can impact those 10, and then they can go out and have a ripple effect, that's me winning. My biggest thing is be the best parent I can. There's no success outside the home that'll ever compensate for failure inside your home. and do everything you can to leave a legacy. And just everybody try to be a kinder human, and we all win.
That's right.
Man,
Love it. This has been awesome. Well, before I get to my last question, I did want to put a bow on the fear topic from a second ago. So you were very specific with your language. I don't want people to miss this. You said control the fear. You didn't say eliminate the fear. The fear is a good thing. The fear motivates you. The fear puts you on the right path if you learn to channel it.
It teaches you.
Exactly. So you don't want to completely eliminate fear. It's a natural response. It actually can be a good thing if you use it in the right direction. So I'm really glad that that you worded it that way, and you didn't try to say, "Hey, eliminate all fear." So I love that.
That's
So
cool.
yeah. So our last question, we ask every guest this.
Uh-oh.
Really curious to see your answer or hear your answer based on your story. If you could go back to any point in your life and tell yourself one thing, I'm not saying go back and change anything, but if you could just go back and tell yourself one thing, where do you go and what do you tell yourself?
I go to the youngest age of comprehension, and I sign every single one of my books this way. I sign it, believe in you and go all in. Because nobody else will believe in what you're doing if you don't believe in yourself first. And I think that's the most important thing. And the other thing that I would say is like, just say, hey, dude, it's real. And the only way to succeed is to keep showing up. The only way to guarantee failure is to stop showing up. So if you believe in yourself, you go all in and you keep showing up, it is impossible to fail.
Yeah. Love that.
That's
Love that.
good.
Yeah.
Man.
I just stole that. From you. Yeah, it's over with. Jay. I'm signing everything.
Yeah, I was saying Darren Woodson,
Yeah.
28.
Darren Woodson said this.
Copyright that right now.
Man, James.
Hey,
I'll take a Cowboys jersey.
There we go.
Fair enough.
It's out. We're sending it out.
Are you a Cowboys fan?
Not this year.
I don't have a football team.
Okay.
Yeah, you spoke to the Ravens. That's a good one. You're politically correct here now. So look at you. Just got done speaking to the Ravens.
I'm
probably going to go speak to the Eagles. And
I've actually spoken to I've got a Vikings helmet that is signed by the entire team. I spoke to them. I've spoken to the Bengals and the Steelers and the Ravens.
That's awesome.
And I'm actually on this year. I was contacted by the NFL Player Development Program, and I'm on the list to be selected for the speakers to come in and help the players believe in themselves and kind of get out of their own way with our story. So
Awesome.
Hopefully more teams call us up, and we can have some impact on these young men that are trying to navigate a lot of money and a wild, crazy game and everything that comes with it. I mean, I can't even imagine what that's like to have that kind of money thrown at you and the fame and all. I mean, it's something I don't know that I could. I don't know that I'd probably be the biggest dumpster fire on the planet.
Well, I'll tell you what, man. With a message like yours, they'd be crazy not to get you in there.
Right.
I think I've been blessed with not a lot of money for a specific reason.
Well, man, I know your episode here is going to be one of those that's going to have multiple downloads per listener because there's so much gold in this. That, like,
Thanks,
I know
guys.
I'll go back and listen to this a couple times because there's so many points that you hit on that just apply across the board to every type of person that's out there. So thank you for sharing, man. Thank you for your time, and good luck to your family, man. I'll be praying for you with those teenage daughters.
I appreciate it, man. It's been a lot of fun. If anybody wants to find us, they can follow me on Instagram, Iron Cowboy James. We post everything we're doing on there. We've got some pretty lofty goals for 2021. And then we wrote a book called Redefine Impossible. You can get that on our website, ironcowboy.com, or on Amazon. So, guys, I really appreciate the invite.
Appreciate you.
If you guys need anything, let me know. I'm happy to help out.
Thank you, man. Hey, one last thing. I just want to just bring up Operation Underground Railroad. I know you partnered with them. Incredible mission, man. Keep that up. Love that. Love those guys. We've had 2 guys on that have actually gone and served on missions. So,
really cool. Tim Ballard.
Yeah, so it's awesome, man. So keep that up. But thank you for everything, man. And again, when we get this going, we're going to put links down. So if you're listening right now, look for the links that James just talked about. Get connected with him. And if you're an executive and you feel like, I mean, he will change. He will make an immediate impact on your company and talking to your people like he has to us. So encourage you to reach out to him because, man, phenomenal. Awesome.
Awesome, guys. Thanks, guys. Have an
Thanks,
amazing
bud.
week. Happy
Appreciate
Thanksgiving.
it.
Yeah, we'll see you.
Good stuff, man. That was
brother.
so good.
That was
That's good
money
stuff,
on
man.
that. The Cowboys, they haven't reached out to you?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll have to
we got
preview
some
We'll
next
make that
week.
connection.
Yeah, we got some,
You come in and preach and everything else.
Yeah.
Just come on down this week and we'll take care.
Put a bug in their ear for them.
I will.
Yeah, gotcha.
Absolutely.
All right, man.
I'm on the list. I'm on the list. I'm approved.
Yep.
we'll give them a ring and endorsement.
We got it. We
Okay,
got it.
cool, man. I appreciate you guys. Seriously, if you need anything, let me know. Send me the link to the when the podcast comes out. I'll put it on my social media.
Will do,
appreciate that, man.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much, man.
All right,
Appreciate it.
thanks. See you guys. Bye.